Hi everyone, welcome to the 77th episode of the Zicast. As always, I'm your host Ryan Ziax, and today I'm joined by broadcaster Sydney Weimer.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This is so special. I know this is the second podcast I've ever been on, actually. I know, like, the first podcast I went on was freshman year, and now I'm, like, in my third year. So it's been a bit, and that was actually, like, a sports podcast. It was actually, not to plug, but it was Rossi's sports podcast.
Yeah.
Don't know anything about sports. I don't even know, like, what I said. I think I just went off of what he said the whole time. I do remember, though, that I announced that my favorite hockey team was the Boston Celtics. So it was a little bit of embarrassing, and this is kind of my redemption.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, but I'm very, very happy to be on.
Yeah. It's only up from here. That's my takeaway from that.
Honestly, I've learned to learn that in life, that, like, everything's an uphill battle, and usually, like, you know, like, things get better after they get worse. So, yeah.
We're already starting off with inspirational
Exactly.
lessons here.
I know. We're already starting off in an inspirational
So we're kicking it off the right way.
Yes.
I also like to shout out episode 31 guest Chen for technical directing once again. So, Sydney, I think you know what I do here. I interview people, get to know them better. And, of course, that's kind of your department, doing a lot of newscasting here on campus. So if you don't mind kicking things off by telling us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I know, like I briefly mentioned, I'm a third year at Quinnipiac. I'm one of those people that, like, I feel like every other person, at least in the School of Communications, is in the 3+1 program. So, like, technically I'm a senior, but, like, I only say I'm a third year because, like, you know, I'm coming back next year. But I will be graduating this spring. But I am a media studies and journalism double major, so I have both of those things going for me. Like I just mentioned, I'm in the 3+1 program. On campus, I'm involved in Q30. I'm in the newscast department, and I've been involved in that since sophomore year. So it's been a bit. I've been in about it for 2 years as an associate producer, which has been awesome. I know we could talk about that a little bit more. Otherwise, like, I don't know, I'm in a sorority on campus. I'm in Chi Omega. I know you've talked to Sarah previously.
Yeah.
Yes. I know she's been on this, so I could talk a little bit about that. I'm sure she's gone into some of the things that I'd have to say, but I could always expand. And then, I know I'm on club sports too. I'm in the club running team, so that's a lot of fun. So I don't know. I feel like I'm involved in a lot of, like, really random things on campus, but, like, a good variety, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I like to put not all my eggs in one basket. I feel like I like to put all my eggs in different baskets, if that makes sense. I feel like I've never heard anyone say that before.
I agree with that. That's something I second. I've never used that phrasing, eggs in different baskets.
I haven't either until just now.
Because I've always just say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. But that's, like, the perfect alternative. And you mentioned Sarah. I also had on your sweet mates, Samantha Shaw and Julia Barcello on here. So now it's full circle getting to have you on here. So let's kind of go into the things you do. Well, of course, I wanted to preface that Q30 is the student media here on campus, for those who don't know. And you're big into journalism and marketing. So how about you tell us kind of what led you into that?
Yeah, so, I mean, going into college, I knew I wanted to, like, concentrate my focus of major in this School of Communications, I guess you could say, or, like, the realm of communications. But I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. I knew, like, I guess before, like, college, like, I was always, like, a kind of a creative person, not necessarily artistic. Like, I still kind of struggle with that kind of aspect. But I was always, like, really social. I really liked, you know, like, expressing myself, like, connecting with others. And I feel like that kind of just, like, you know, like, leads you to communication. So I knew I wanted to go into that. I wasn't exactly sure, like, what department, so, like, journalism or anything in particular. So I came into Quinnipiac as a media studies major because I feel like that's a pretty good catch-all of communications. It gives you, like, a good taste of kind of, like, a little bit of every single, like, aspect of, like, the different majors. And, you know, I was going, like, freshman year, I was taking, like, media studies classes and, like, whatnot. And I enjoyed it, and I really, like, I knew I wanted to be in communications, but at the same time, like, this might sound kind of bad, but, like, I felt like I wasn't getting enough out of my classes. Like, I wanted something, like, more, not niche, but, like, more specific, like, a more specialization. So at the same time, I was, you know, I lived in Ledges in the 3+1. I know it changes every year, but, like, Com LLC. So basically it's just, like, 2 hallways of, like, guys and girls of just who are in the same program as you. And I started to get really close with Julia Barcello, who I know was a previous guest of your podcast. And she's always been really into news and journalism. Like, she kind of came into school being, like, you know, not to say news girl, because I know she hates that name, but she's always been kind of known as the news girl. And I know she got involved in, like, journalism Q30 right off the start. And after I started to get close with her, I know, you know, I was, like, trying to figure out, like, where I wanted to go with communications, because I wanted to you know, add something to the media studies. I just wasn't sure what. And as I got closer with her, I kind of like saw like her involvement in Q30 and like what she'd do. And I really thought it was just really interesting. I, you know, like going on like the TV and like, you know, like seeing yourself on camera. And I know like growing up, my parents always had the news on to some vicinity. So I was like, I always thought it was cool, but I never really saw myself doing that, or like, I don't know, like the thought process of it, but like I never really like thought about it being like a pathway or like a career for me. And I honestly didn't really even know like how, like what do those people even do to get into that position, like on the TV? Like obviously like it's, you know, journalism, but like I just never really put mind into it. But as I got closer with Julia, you know, I was talking to her about it, and she was like, you know what, like you should come to a news rundown. And she was already like an AP at this point, like knew everything she was doing. So I was like, oh my God, like me, like I think I've taken one like basic journalism like class, and I think it was like part of like the media studies requirement just to like get like a taste of it. And she was like, no, like you should really like, I think you would like it. I think you should get involved. So it took up some like mustering of courage, because I was kind of scared of going into an environment like full of people who knew what they were doing. And, you know, like there was just me that like, I didn't really know much about journalism. Like I knew the news existed, and that was about it. Like I didn't really know anything about the production standpoint. But you know, like I was really comfortable with Julie, and I was close with her. So I was like, you know what, like you'll be there. Like I might as well tag along with you. And I remember showing up to a rundown. I think at this point it was like mid freshman year. And I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to know what to say. Like they're going to be throwing these ideas out and like, you know, like planning an entire show, and I don't know how to do any of that. And then she was like, Sydney, you need to calm down. Like, I'm like, this is your first time going to a rundown. Like, no one's going to expect you to, like, know what to say or, like, even, like, give an idea of, like, what to put in the show. But, yeah, I mean, I showed up and I was, like, gripping my water bottle the whole time. I was like, oh, my God, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I was like, Julia, do you think I'm, like, going to stand out as, like, the only person there? Like, how many people are that's new there? And then I was like, how many people are going to be there? And she's like, it's going to be, like, 10 people. Like, obviously, like, you know, like, it's going to be your first time at a rundown. But, I went, and then I really thought it was interesting, you know, like seeing from like a backhand standpoint, like how the show gets put together. And I kind of just like kept showing up from there. I know it really helps that I was like friends with Julia, and like she was kind of the incentive, you know, for me to keep going. And I know we lived right next to each other, so it'd be like, oh, do you want to like walk together and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I kind of just kept showing up after that. I know this is like a big ramble of kind of like a condensed way of how I got into it, but I guess you could say like I was kind of just unsure what I wanted to do, and I think it took like a friend to kind of introduce me to something that I've never thought of before. And yeah, I guess I kind of just kept showing up, and I was like, you know, as it works typically, like I started off making like smaller contents where I'd go and like make like a VO, or which I guess is just kind of like short footage of like something that's happening on campus that they put in the show, or like I'd make like, you know, like a segment, I guess is like the first kind of introduction to going on air, like before you actually go on desk or anything. And I would do that. And I remember the first package I was asked to make while I was still a general member at this point. I didn't like get any position until sophomore year. Was for Q-thon of my freshman year, so 2023. I remember the then news director, Vanessa, she like came up to me after a rundown, and she was like, do you want to make a package for Q-thon? And I was like, oh my gosh, like first off, like what is Q-thon? Because this is like something that like only colleges do, and I was like a freshman. And then second off, I was like, oh my God, I've never made a package before. Like I see these people make them all the time, and like it's a lot of work, and I don't know what to do. But she was really helpful, and she like kind of led me through it, and she like tagged along with all my interviews. The package was on like the seniors in Q-thon that year, and like kind of like featuring them. And I remember after my math class, I think one random Thursday, she sat with me in the media suite until like 1 a.m. and we just edited it together. And it was really long, and I feel like in the grand scheme of things, like I would have like expected that to kind of scare myself away, but it was really like wholesome, I feel like, and it was just kind of, I don't know. It was really like she kind of just like sat with me, and it kind of like explained with me like kind of the ropes and everything. And it was just a very like gentle like introduction to it all. And I feel like, I don't know, like everyone was just so supportive and like, you know, more friendly than I expected. Not that I ever had like a reason to be intimidated, but I feel like it was just so welcoming. And everyone kind of just like, we're all students. They kind of just like support one another, and you want to help each other succeed. Yeah, and I mean, like, after that, like, I just started to become more involved in it, and I know, like, sophomore year, the end of freshman year started to come around, and, you know, like, we were thinking about, like, oh, who's going to do what next year, and I know, like, I, like, thought about becoming an AP, but, like, I remember Julia came up to me one day, and she was like, you should really consider applying to be an AP, because I know she was going to be an AP along with Andrew Reynolds then the next year, and then I ended up applying and got it, and ever since then, I've been really involved in newscasts, and I feel like I've only gotten like more skilled in the area since then. So I feel like I'm learning new things every single day, actually. But yeah.
As you should be. And of course, AP means associate producer.
Associate producer,
so one of the producers on the news show. And so many stories of like involvement like that just begin with your friend taking you there.
Yes.
And you realizing like what you like, and then that kind of leading you to more people, like Vanessa sitting down. Sorry, was that her name?
Yes, Vanessa. She was actually in Coyote too at the time. Okay. So I was already kind of this is really funny. I feel like I have a lot of like friend plugs that like got me involved in things. But I know like I was already familiar with her in Coyote. I wasn't like crazy close with her, but she was a senior when I was a freshman, or I guess like in her third year with the whole +1 issue.
Yeah. It's confusing.
Yeah, no, I know. It's like another language, but I already knew her because she was in my sorority. I wasn't like, I would say, that close with her, but I was familiar with her. But I feel like, I don't know, like I think about it a lot, and I'm like, well, if it wasn't for like Julia to kind of introduce me to it, I don't know if I would have ever gotten, compelled to journalism, because I knew I wanted to like specify like my major in something, but I don't know if that would have led me to journalism if it wasn't for Julia.
Yeah.
So not to say she's the reason I got into it, but at the same time, like, definitely helped.
There's like, it's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of things like that just leading to another thing.
It really is.
And you mentioned like the Q-thon package being your first like introduction.
Yeah.
Have you worked on any other projects that were like very formative, or like any like highlights that you'd want to talk about?
I'm trying to think if there's anything really special. I know I've done a lot with Hamden Fire Department, which is really random, but I feel like there's always, like, at least recently, like this past year, there's always been something going on with them, with like officers resigning, or chiefs resigning, I guess is the proper term for it.
Yeah.
And just like things with like the whole brush fire situation that was going on at the beginning of the year. I know like that was pretty relevant. So like I've been going back and forth with Hamden Fire Department, and they're actually very nice people.
Yeah.
Like they're very like open to media inquiries, which like you wouldn't really expect because they're like an emergency department. So you wouldn't really think they'd give you the time of day. But I've done a lot with them, and it's really cool to see, because a lot of like the chiefs there and a lot of like, like the firemen and firewomen have like really interesting stories. I know I got really close with one of the female fire chiefs. Her name is Shelly Carter. And I've gone back to interview her for like various packages, probably like 3 or 4 times now. And I've just learned like a lot about her as a person, and like heard her life story of how it brought her to, being a fire chief, and who's a female, which is, already kind of like stands out. But yeah, I know I've done a lot with the Hamden Fire Department, which was cool. I'm trying to think of like individual packages that I can talk about. I've done, there's so much. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Like I really like the Q-thon packages, not to circle that back to that, but I know for this year I did a highlight on the Hospital Relations Committee, which was really awesome, because I feel like that's kind of the backbone of Q-thon is, like the connection with Connecticut Children's Network. So I did a package on that, and I got to talk with like the Quinnipiac students, or I guess like the people on the management team who are in direct correlation with like the hospitals themselves, which is really cool to kind of hear how the communication between Connecticut Children's and Quinnipiac works. That was awesome. I've also done a lot of really fun packages. I know at the beginning of last year, I did a package on, it was so interesting. There's like this farm in Wallingford that I was like known as the kicker person last year. For some reason, like every other package I ended up making was like a kicker. So like I've gone to a lot of like restaurants and like fun little unique places, because like, like a kicker, like it's usually the fun story at the end of the newscast to kind of let the audience have like, like a happy, because a lot of news can be like sad and depressing.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of the final like story that we put at the end. Even if it's like not a full package, it's like, like lighter news, so the audience gets like, a happy ending in a way. But I made a package on this farm that has like a life-size Candyland, like kind of like board that like is interactive. So it's like a playground almost, like kids can go and like play on it. And it had like a little pathway with rainbows, and it had like a life-size gingerbread house where you could climb inside it. And that's actually where I did like my tag out. It's coming out of the gingerbread house with like music playing in the background. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, and no, it was really cool because like it was on this random farm in Wallingford, which is like you wouldn't expect, but like I guess this is like a thing that they do. Is like, I'm not from the area, so I didn't really know about it, but I guess like for every like season that happens, they decorate this like specific spot, like where the Candyland setup was for the season. So I guess now there's like Easter stuff set up, and like for the holidays there's like Christmas stuff. For Halloween there's like scarecrows and whatnot. I know like I've driven past it a couple times. But it's like a locally known like they just decorate for each season, and it's like a really interactive setup, and you can go and take photos. Like there was cars like pulled on the side of the road, like going to take photos and like kind of check it out. And yeah, I did a package on like the Candyland setup that they had. I think it was like early spring. And it was really cool. I got to talk to the owner of the farm. His name was Billy. He's a really cool guy. And I got to go up to families and like small children and like talk to them about the Candyland setup, which is really awesome. I know like it's always fun to like, you know, interview children with parental permission, of course. But you know, like it's kind of refreshing to hear like their takes on things.
Some hard-hitting journalism.
Yes. And it was really cool also because like the parents were like, oh my gosh, like where can I watch this? Like my child's going to be on TV. And I was like, it's a university news station, but like I'll send you the watch link. So that was really awesome. But yeah, no, there's honestly, it's almost every single week I make a new package. And I feel like they're all so different, but like in a way that like I'm uniquely proud of every single one of them, because I feel like you're with the whole thing with journalism. I feel like it's centered around you're telling someone's story. I know I don't have to tell you with your podcast, but I feel like that's one of the most valuable parts about it is you're telling a story, whether it's about a person, an event, you're conveying something and like you're making it known. And I feel like every single story that I cover in a way, or that just journalists cover in general, is so important and unique. I know like some news is more prominent and more like impactful than others, or like it's more important for lack of better terms. But I feel like, you know, like every story is equally, or like every package that I've made is equally as important, just in different ways.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm finding out now what a kicker is. I've never heard of that before this.
Oh, interesting. I wonder if it's like one of those like terminology differences.
Yeah, I just never heard of I've never worked in the news. I've like worked with Liam in entertainment news. So maybe it's just different phrasing.
I feel like it just might be a news thing, because I know like I said earlier, like a lot of news can be like dark and depressing. It's a lot of like, you know, like political and like national events going on. So I feel like there's not a whole lot of like the happy stories that make you like, oh, like, you know, feel good throughout the show. So I know like most newscasts try to like throw the lighter news towards the end, and the more important stuff at the top. And unfortunately, the more important stuff tends to be like not so exciting and fun. But no, a kicker is, I guess, like the final hurrah.
Yeah. And then Candyland, like that's Did you go there for any of their other events? Because you said like seasonally they change it around.
I think I didn't make this package this year, but for Halloween this year, I think they had a whole setup.
Okay.
I think one of the other producers may have gone and like checked that out. But I definitely want to go back. I don't know if I'll be the one to get sent back because I've already gone, but I do think that I'd like to make another.
I feel like it should become a tradition.
It should be. There. No, I know it should be. I know it's like I always go to the Hindman Fire Department. I don't know why I can't go back to Candyland, but I know they said that they always have like some exhibit going on. It's really interesting. And I talked to like the owner, and he like the farm owner, and it's a fully functioning farm. They just do this, I guess, to get like community engagement. And it's really awesome, because I remember like he really said he kind of just does it for like the kids mainly, because, you know, like it draws them into it, and it kind of is just like an interactive way to, you know, get the community involved. And they're like known as like this like attraction in the middle of it's when I say it's like a farm, it's so random. Like it's on the side of the road, but like there's no parking lot. Like the cars have to pull onto like literally pull off of the side of the road to get to it. So it's really interesting. Yeah,
and it's incredible you got to do it. I feel like it should be like a rite of passage.
For
all the reporters to be able to go there and then report on that. But of course, like Q30 and the newscast for Q30 has been very formative. You're also in a sorority.
I am.
Chi Omega?
Yes, Chi Omega.
Okay, I got that right.
Yes.
Thank you, Sarah. And I'm curious to ask you, how is that shaping your career interests?
Yeah, so, I mean, like, I joined the sorority freshman year. I went through primary recruitment, which is basically like the first weekend of freshman year, which was a lot, but like I don't regret it. I love all the girls, and I love like I think I ended up with like a perfect fit, as corny as it sounds. I know, because we're at like Quinnipiac, it's like not some huge school, but I've been involved since freshman year, and in terms of like my career interests, I feel like I was the marketing director for Chi-O, which I don't know if Sarah was at this like the point when she did your podcast, but she's actually the new marketing director, so she's like preceding me in that, and I got to train her and everything, so I'm decently close with her, I would say.
Okay.
But yeah, so I've been kind of involved in like I've got introduced to the marketing realm in terms of like my involvement in the sorority. I know I'm no longer the marketing director, Sarah is, but I was from 2023 to 2024, and it was really awesome because I got to, you know, like kind of like uphold the sorority's persona online.
Okay.
I ran the Instagram, well, I guess all socials for that matter, this is like including like the TikTok, the Instagram. I know we had a Visco. We didn't use it too much, but like I technically had to log into that. Get the link tree. I made the recruitment video, which is a lot of fun, a little stressful.
And a big deal, I bet.
Yeah, no, because it's kind of like the first impression. So I guess for like anyone who's like not crazy familiar with like how sorority recruitment works, basically like at least at Quinnipiac, like every single like, you know, chapter has a video that they make that represents themselves in like 3 minutes. It's usually like a song and a half, and it's just kind of like fun clips of like all the sisters together, and just whatnot. And it's trying to like the whole point of it is to convey kind of like the vibe of the sorority and like kind of like get you to like want to be involved. And I got to make that this past year, which was really cool. It was kind of my summer project, so it took a couple of revisions, you know what, but it was really awesome getting to make that. If you were to tell me that freshman year I'd be the one who ended up making that for us, I probably wouldn't believe you. But yeah, that was awesome. And I got to do other things like host photo shoots between all the girls for like marketing purposes to get like content and whatnot. And like all the events we would hold, I would always be running around with my camera, like, getting content and whatnot. And I had like the help of a committee that I got to pick, which Sarah was actually on, which was awesome. They were a lot of help, but yeah, no, it was really cool. So that kind of introduced me to like the marketing realm. I know like this might be jumping the gun a little bit, but for my +1, which is going to be next year, in my master's, I'm going the MBA route. I'm not sticking with journalism. And I made that decision pretty early on just because I wanted to have like a diverse area of skill sets. And I know like an MBA is a very universal degree, so I thought that might be like a smart decision because I also wasn't sure if I wanted to even go into journalism long term. So I didn't necessarily want to like get my master's in it. So I decided to go the MBA route. And I was like, you know what, I'm like thinking about like what like concentrations in that, and I made my concentration for that in marketing. But I wanted to like get involved on campus because my major was journalism, and like I wanted to minor in marketing, but at that point it was like too late. I know like the 3+1's already expedited. So like the school gets icky with you like, you know, picking up a minor outside of the School of Communications after a certain point, which like I get, but I wanted to find involvements like outside of journalism because I had Q30 to kind of like I said, diversify my skill sets. So I applied to be the marketing director, you know, and obviously I ended up getting it. But it was a lot of fun and I really enjoyed it. And it was different than Q30 in a way that like, it's, I don't even know how to explain it. It's a very different organization, and like getting to make creative content in such a different way. I know like Q30 is very much so like professional and kind of like real world. And I feel like getting to market for a sorority and kind of uphold the brand was really interesting. Because like I feel like what's so like unique about marketing is you kind of get to create the public perception of something, which I think is so valuable about like the whole field in general, is you kind of like decide how someone perceives something. And I really just enjoyed like it, as simple as it sounds, like getting to pick like the vibe for the Instagram or the aesthetic for the Instagram for that year. Like it's really unique and cool, and to like be able to say that you control that was like a big talking point for me, like with like during recruitment. At least I know like I would tell people that like, oh yeah, like I made that video that you just watched, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Or like I don't know, like hearing someone be like, oh, I love the Instagram, like it's so cute, like you guys are awesome. Like, oh, I designed that actually. So it was kind of cool. And I just, like I said, like earlier, like I've always been kind of like a creative like person, maybe not necessarily artistically. Like if you asked me to like do a drawing or like a painting, like that might not be as successful, but like in Canva, like all that kind of stuff, like I cook there. Yeah.
Creativity, it works in funny ways like that. Where like I know you mentioned earlier you didn't view yourself as being someone who's creative, but then you do all these things with social media marketing. So it's like what somebody would be as like a drawer or as painter. Right. For you, it's translated into all the social media work. Right. And it's interesting you bring up with like Q30, kind of comparing it to the sorority. It's like Q30 is kind of like a workplace, right? And a sorority is like a sisterhood. So exactly, it's kind of like the roots run deeper. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Exactly. And I feel like the thing with like a creative mindset is like you can have a creative mindset, but I feel like the way you express it can be so different. And that's why like everyone, like, you know, you have your artists and your painters, and then you have the people who are like more digitally creative and whatnot. So I think that's definitely like the area that I excel in. But yeah, no, I think like being involved in Q30 before like having my position in CIO, you know, managing the marketing, that definitely did help because it gave me like a sense of like creative quality in a way. Like, you know, like I had a better idea of like, oh, this is like good quality, or like this is well made, or like, you know, like as simple as it'd be like editing a video in CapCut. Like, I know we don't use CapCut for newscast, but like having an idea of like how to edit a video, or like, you know, just like create content, and just like have like a regimented way of going about it. I feel like just making sure you're on top of things, and whatnot. And I feel like being involved in Q30, I think one of the most valuable things I've learned from it overall is just how to connect with others and how to like, you know, like just be open and expressive. Because I feel like before like joining, I was a very not introverted, but I was nowhere near as outgoing as I currently am. If you were to tell me in high school that like I'd end up interviewing random people, like professors and like people on campus, and like traveling to like fire departments and like interviewing like fire chiefs, I probably would freak out and be like, there's no way that I'm gonna end up doing that. But I feel like you kind of just like have to expose yourself to things that you're uncomfortable with to realize that like, oh, it's actually not the scariest thing in the world to talk to people that you don't know or that you're not familiar with. And I know it's kind of ironic because like I got involved because my friend kind of led me into it, but you know, sometimes it takes like that extra push to get yourself like, comfortable enough to still face the uncomfortable. And I feel like if I wasn't involved in, not to like make it like, oh, Q30 made me the person I am today, but it has. I feel like if I wasn't like involved in Q30 before, you know, going and venturing off into other leadership positions on campus, I probably wouldn't have even applied because I feel like it, like being a producer kind of just like taught me like, oh, I can have a leadership position. Like I can be held accountable to like make these things, and like I'm making content weekly, and like I'm on a timeline, and like I'm being held to this standard. And it makes you a very like independent person when it comes to like, you know, like your own like completion of like, you know, like work that you have to get done. And I feel like, you know, being involved in Q30 definitely pushed me to search for other leadership positions on campus, because I saw that like, oh, I was able to do it for this. I could do it again in like a different kind of way. Yeah. Which like CIO is a little bit different than Q30, but yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. And like I said, like being in marketing compared to like being in like production and like news environment, it's a lot different, but like both kind of like help in like build creativity in a way.
Yeah, be comfortable enough to be uncomfortable. Yes. I like that quote a lot. Yeah. I'm learning multiple things now. I appreciate the knowledge, and you've been able to make an impact, of course, at Q3 at Chi. But you also interned at Make-A-Wish Connecticut. If you don't mind me asking you about that experience and kind of just working in kind of philanthropy in general.
Yeah. So the whole reason I got an internship at Make-A-Wish Connecticut, which I'm sure like most people have heard about Make-A-Wish, great foundation. But I know like you probably would think like, oh, like who looks for an internship at Make-A-Wish? That's kind of random. Like you wouldn't even think, I guess, that they like offer internships. But the whole reason I ended up applying for that is because I was getting to like my third year in the 3+1 program. I know you need an internship. I actually don't know if you know this, but you need an internship within the 3 years to like graduate basically. And I wanted to do something last summer. I applied to a whole bunch of things, but as internships typically go, I either got rejected or no one responded to me. So I didn't end up getting my internship done last summer. So I was resorted to, you know, doing it at some point, either first semester or second semester this year. Really didn't want to push it off to second semester because I was like, that's really cutting it close, and I don't want to have to worry about that as I'm actively about to graduate. So late last year I applied. You know, no one that I applied to on LinkedIn or Indeed was getting back to me, or I was just getting rejected. So I was like, you know what, I have to get really creative with this internship search. I'm just gonna like look up random places and see if they offer internships, like places that like somewhat interest me. And I was like thinking about it, and I remember hearing one of my like sorority sisters like mention, not directly to me, but like overheard in a conversation that like either herself or someone she knew interned at Make-A-Wish and really liked it. And then I was like, oh, you know what, like maybe I'll check out Make-A-Wish. So I looked up their website, Make-A-Wish Connecticut, because every single state pretty much has like their own like you know branch. And I saw that they did offer internships, so I applied, and as a marketing intern, because I think that's like one of the only ones like departments that they offer that would like fulfill the communications requirement. And I ended up getting it. I applied to do it over the summer, but they responded to me very quickly after I applied and said, we already filled our positions for the summer, but we'd love to consider you for the fall. I really didn't want to do an in-person internship while I was a student on campus, but I was like, you know what, like it's kind of convenient because the Connecticut Wishing Center is in Trumbull, which is far closer to Quinnipiac than my house. I live in Connecticut, but I live more towards Yukon, so like central. Cool. Would have been like an hour and a half from there. It's only about 30 minutes from here. So I was like, you know what, like it might make more sense to do it during the fall semester. So I had my interview. It went great. And I was accepted and I interned there all fall, and it was amazing, honestly. Like I was very passionate about it before I became an intern. Make-A-Wish is actually one of the reasons I decided to go CAIO in the first place. I feel like it's a very, very heart-touching philanthropy. I know, like, one of my neighbors growing up, their daughter was a Wish kid, and I kind of just saw, like, how much the organization helps, and, like, it really just, like, the impact is so firsthand. And the fact that, like, CAIO, like, one of the things that stuck out to me during recruitment is that considering the Wishing Center is so close, like, we got to do, like, you know, you can see the impact firsthand. Like, we got to meet Wish kids and their families, and we get to go to the Wishing Center for events and whatnot, so like we can really see the impact we're making, which I thought was really awesome, because not to like demean other sororities philanthropies, but I feel like in some other ones, like, it's harder to see like the money that you're raising, like how it's actually being used, and I thought that was really unique about CAIO and Make-A-Wish. And yeah, so I've always been pretty passionate about that ever since joining, as it was like one of the reasons I wanted to go CAIO. And being an intern there all fall really just made my love for it grow even more. I know I worked in person 4 days a week in Trumbull, which it got to be a lot being a full-time student. And I put a lot of miles on my car, but I would say it was worth every single bit of it. I got to do a lot of like creative external content for them. One of the things that I thought was really cool is every month they sent out like a card, like based off of like some like holiday or whatnot. So if it was like December, it'd be like a Christmas themed card. October, it'd be like Halloween themed. They sent that out to Wish families, so like hundreds of individuals like across the state. Kind of as like, you know, a greeting, like, you know, like we're still thinking of you, like we love you. And I got to design that, like the cover of it for every single month, which was awesome, because I was like, I'm like creating something that's actually going to be seen by like every single family affiliated with Make-A-Wish, which was awesome. And I got to do a lot of like creative content. Like I know like Jersey Mike's has like a strong affiliation with Make-A-Wish. They have this thing called Jersey Mike's Day of Giving, which I think they do it a couple days a year, but I know they had it not too long ago. But for a single day, like all the proceeds, like Jersey Mike's makes for a day, like the ones in Connecticut, go to Make-A-Wish. So every single dollar that Jersey Mike's makes for a day goes to Make-A-Wish. So they held like a dinner banquet, Make-A-Wish did, for like Jersey Mike's employees to kind of say like, oh, thank you so much for like helping like raise money for our foundation. And they had like a video that they wanted to like, you know, make to say as a thank you for employees at the banquet. So I got to make that, which was really cool. I didn't get to go to the banquet myself, but just knowing I kind of like had a special like part in that was really awesome. I've also got to go to a lot of like company events, which is really cool. I know like in Westport, so like kind of towards New York, I got to go to this event called Taste of Wishes, which was really awesome because it was at this like test kitchen situation, and a bunch of like professional chefs like showed up. There was like 4 or 5, and each of them was paired with like a Wish kid, and they would like cook the Wish kid's favorite meal together in like a professional kitchen with like a professional chef, and it was really awesome. And then like each chef like made like testers of like the meal they made, and like you can go around and try it all. And I walked around and made content for that, and I took like videos and photos and whatnot, which was really cool. I also got to meet a lot of like the families that are like affiliated with the organization, and just bond with other employees and other interns, which is awesome. But yeah, no, I also like think that, you know, like working for Make-A-Wish, it's not to get like corny, but it's really eye-opening. I know like you just get even more exposure to like how like grateful you should be to, you know, have like a life where you don't have to worry about like being in and out of the hospital and whatnot. And it's really just a beautiful organization. I know like even in high school I was really passionate about this kind of stuff. My dad, when he was younger, was really involved in Special Olympics, so that kind of got me to get involved in Special Olympics. In high school I specifically was involved in Special Olympics track, and that was just really eye-opening as well. I know like I ran track in high school, so like seeing like, you know, I would run like the races, do like the 4x4 and whatnot, and then like that following weekend I'd go and volunteer at a Special Olympics track meet, and you'd see like these kids like racing in like wheelchairs and whatnot, and it's just really eye-opening, and I feel like it just kind of like rounds you out as a person in a way. It just kind of gives you a new perspective on things. So I think like I've just always really been into like philanthropic efforts. Yeah, because I feel like you just need to like it. I don't know how to word it, but I feel like it just helps you like gauge a more like real world perspective on things.
Yeah, like sometimes we forget how lucky we are to be able-bodied,
right?
Being able to walk, being young, and to be able to be there and see that with all these incredible, strong people,
right?
They're very helpful. And you kind of mentioned like always running around with the camera. You were doing that for them too in this kitchen with these chefs. I don't know if they brought in Gordon Ramsay for that.
Oh, I wish. No, but no, it was really awesome. And I know, like, kind of going off of that, like, so many people have, like, photos, like, sniped, for lack of better words, of me just, like, crouched down, like, with the camera, like, getting content. And it's just funny. Or, like, people will be driving by and see me, like, with a tripod and, like, a camera. And they'll, like, yell out the window and be like, oh, my God. Like, oh, that's silly. But, no, it's awesome. And, yeah, no, I think it's really amazing. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be involved with such an amazing organization. Yeah, and I think it's been really valuable, the lessons it's taught me. And obviously Make-A-Wish, like, if you work at a nonprofit, like, you have to be an amazing person. Every single one of my colleagues or, like, my advisors was amazing for the internship. So if I could do it again, I would.
Definitely. And then you had the rhythm of the slice with Jersey Mike's.
Yes.
Reference that commercial, the Danny DeVito one. But, yeah, and being able to, like, help coordinate that, like you mentioned, that's incredible, like that. To kind of help bring that partnership. Do you have anything else to add with that aspect of it?
I don't see. I'm not a huge Jersey Mike's person myself, so I've never actually been to a store, but it was really awesome just because I wasn't even aware that like they had such a strong affiliation, you know, with Jersey Mike's. So I thought that was really interesting because I kind of like had to learn about it before I actually made the video. You know, 'cause making a video representing an organization and thanking them for this giant thing. So I had to read up about it, and it was really interesting because there's a lot of like random like affiliations that like Make-A-Wish has. Like I feel like you wouldn't really like anticipate. I know like one of the things that like really stuck out to me is like the affiliation with WWE that Make-A-Wish has.
Yeah.
Which I feel like you wouldn't really expect, but like the whole reason I like asked about it initially was because like at the Wishing Center, which was like it looks like a giant children's museum. It's so beautiful. I don't even know like the words to describe it. But like the office where I would work and like make all my content, like marketing for them, was like typical office upstairs, but like the lower level was like this giant children's museum because it was interactive. It's like where Wish families come and like they have like fun and they play and they bond. And the basement was kind of like an open like event facility. With like a little kitchen and whatnot. And there was like this WWE exhibit with a life-size John Cena. And I remember asking, because I took a tour on my first day at like the Wishing Center. So I guess my first day on the internship. And I asked, I was like, why is John Cena in a giant wrestling belt, like just in the basement with like a giant WWE backdrop? And then my advisor, Caitlin, who was like, I guess the marketing coordinator who like I kind of reported to, she was like, oh, it's because Make-A-Wish is a really, like John Cena loves Make-A-Wish. Like apparently like there's a bunch of like when a wish kid like chooses their wish, like there's a bunch of different forms. There's like, I wish to be, I wish to give, I wish to go. There's a bunch of different ones. But the most popular I wish to meet is John Cena.
Yeah, he is the record.
Yes, which is so insane. Like I feel like you wouldn't expect that. But I guess like that's why, and like I guess given that the WWE has built such like a strong connection with Make-A-Wish, I know like the final event I attended this, I guess during my internship, so like first semester, was a like kind of like holiday party outside at Make-A-Wish, and there was actually wrestlers that showed up to that. John Cena wasn't there, but there was this, I forget her name, but there's this woman with a giant braid that like showed up, and I got to meet her, and it was awesome. And she was like dressed in her wrestling gear, and it was like WWE themed, and I just thought it was so cool. And I know like also like the monster trucks, I know like that's like a more well-known thing, but those are also like WWE, so I've just never thought of that, and I thought it was really interesting. But it's really just a massive organization, and I think it's like awesome like how so many people are like involved in it.
Bianca Belair. That was the wrestler.
Yes, that is her. Yes, that is her.
Yeah, because I was going to ask if you saw John Cena, but I don't know if he does Make-A-Wish, because back in the day, he was like Superman when he was in his prime, so all the kids loved him.
I know. I don't know if he's as easy to reach these days, so I don't know like how, I don't know if you'd just be showing up to like, you know, like the random company event. But no, I wish John Cena was there, but I know like I just thought it was so cool how like he's the most popular like person to meet. I don't know, like off the bat I just think it was like Taylor Swift or something, but I guess
or
not.
like a superhero actor or something like that.
No, it's actually really interesting. I know like kids have even asked to meet the Pope, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. But like, I feel like also just like a lot of those like little things that like you didn't know about the organization, like just working there, you kind of have to like learn to talk about and just like, you're working for the company, you have to know about it. So I just thought it was interesting. But
it's interesting. They have an exhibit of a floating belt there.
No, it was, oh my gosh, it's so cool. It's like, it's obviously not gold, but it's like you can actually try it on. It's so cool.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I forgot the joke because you can't see John Cena. Because you can't see John Cena.
That's like his whole thing. It's the you can't see me thing. It's
like, oh my god,
it's his like wrestling gimmick. But
no, I know what you're talking about.
So maybe John Cena was there when you.
Honestly, maybe he was, and I just didn't see him.
You just couldn't see him.
Yeah, no, maybe he was. I wish I met John Cena.
Yeah, thank you for helping me land my joke, Liam.
But yeah, no, I loved it. I loved every single minute of it.
Yeah, like you can't mention John Cena without me somehow finding a way to integrate a you can't see John Cena.
I'm sorry. I'm not. This is gonna sound fake, but I've never watched wrestling, so.
Oh no, I don't.
I don't know. Yeah, no, I don't know. I feel like if I were to put that on the TV, like at home, my mom would be like, "Sydney, why are you watching that? Like, put that off right now." But yeah, so.
Yeah, but WWE, of course, athletics, and you're big into running and fitness. So if you don't mind telling us a bit about like your journey with that.
Yeah, so I mean, like ever since I could remember, I've been involved in a sport to some vicinity. Growing up, I started with softball, and I've kind of stuck with that. I played softball for 9 years. I played on like 3 different travel teams. Really amazing sport. I also got injured quite a bit from it. I know I broke like I broke my ankle twice. I broke every single finger. But yeah, no, it was kind of accident prone with that one. But I played softball for 9 years, loved it. Loved all the girls that I played with, loved all my coaches. It was amazing. And then I also was really big into running, which I'd argue I'm a little bit more passionate about. I started running in middle school. I ran cross country. I know it got kind of icky with like track because it's like also the softball season. My senior year, I decided to drop softball and just run track. That had to do with like coaching issues. But yeah, no, I've always kind of really been an athletic person. Yeah, I ran softball. I didn't run softball. I played softball and I ran cross country. I'm really into running. I run almost every single day, which is, I know, kind of a niche thing. But it's kind of just like one of my ways to like decompress, which I know is like not super common. I know people don't usually associate running with like peacefulness and mindfulness. But I've always just kind of found like peace in like, I like running with people, but I really like running by myself because I feel like it's a way to just clear my mind. And one of my most controversial takes is I run with no music. Which I feel like not many people do because I feel like a lot of people like listen to music to kind of distract themselves. But I'll either run with no music, especially if I'm in this area and I'm by myself. I just like to be aware of my surroundings. Or I'll listen to a podcast, which not to like, be cliche, but like, I don't know. I feel like listening to people talk can sometimes be interesting. But yeah, no, I usually just like run to clear my mind, which I think is one of the reasons why I like silence. But yeah, I've always really been involved in athletics and whatnot. And, I feel like my parents kind of like forced me into that ever since I probably would have become involved regardless. But I know like my mom was always like, okay, Sydney, like you need to have an extracurricular on top of school. So like pick one. And I decided to go to the sports route because I was never really into music or any of that kind of stuff. Like I tried playing the flute. It was not very good. I was not like very musically inclined. So I went like with sports and I played softball for a bit, loved it. Yeah, but I know I'm training for a half marathon, which is actually next weekend.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm a little bit stressed about that, but I think it'll be good. Because I run a half marathon, just over 13 miles. I ran 13 miles over spring break. I was kind of feeling the wrath of it a couple days after, but
Yeah. I wish you the best of luck.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm doing it with my friends who are actually also on club running. I'm on club running on campus, the club running team. So we're probably going to end up getting separated throughout the duration of the 13 miles. But I like to challenge myself. I don't know. I've always wanted to run a half marathon. I've only ever really done 5Ks, which is like 3 miles and change, which is like the typical high school or like college race. But like I like to run on my own, and sometimes I'll do like longer lengths, like 8 to 10 miles, but I've never actually done like a full on like competitive like form of racing for like a longer distance like that. So I've always wanted to, and we offer one in we don't offer one at Quinnipiac, but like there's one sponsored by like Ion Bank that like starts off in Cheshire and just like goes around back roads, and I'm like, you know what, like typically like races like that aren't as local, so I might as well take the opportunity of it. And I know I volunteered at it last year for club running, because we had to either volunteer at it directing traffic, or we had to participate in it, and I wasn't participating in it last year. So I like stood at an intersection and directed traffic for the race for like 3 hours. So I was like, you know what, the whole time I was thinking, I was like, I'd rather be running this right now than just standing directing traffic. So I made like a oath to myself, be like, oh, next year I'm going to be running 13 miles. So yeah, I don't know. Like I've been training for that and whatnot, because like, you can't really just like whip out 13 miles. It's very casual. Like I'm not trying to like win it or anything. I think I'm just trying to like, complete it. But I think it'll be cool to be able to say I did that.
Of course. It's a great milestone. And
yes,
I feel validated, because I go to the gym without music and people call me a psychopath.
No, I completely understand that, because I feel like a lot of the times, like I associate working out with like clearing my mind and like kind of like focusing on like a mental reset. And I feel like when I listen to music, like I kind of get distracted, and it doesn't like really, this is going to sound corny, but like I don't really get as into my workouts when I'm like distracted by the music, because then I'm like singing it in my head, and like I don't know if I could do the Stairmaster without music. I've tried to do that before, and it's kind of hard, but like, I don't know. I like working out without music. I also just like being aware of my surroundings in general. And I feel like sometimes like I have like the Apple headphones, and I know like those are really immersive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I like being aware. And whatnot, but like, I completely understand.
Of course.
With that.
And don't worry about being corny. This is a corny free zone. Like you see my tagline.
Yeah,
there's no corniness. There's no judgment in the studio. While this show is going on.
I appreciate that.
Maybe while other shows are going on, but not while this show is going on. And we've been able to touch on all the things you do, but I'm curious to get more into kind of who you are. And how about you tell us some things people might not know about you, like any fun facts?
I guess I should start off with this, considering what we just talked about. But I guess it's kind of ironic that I don't know how to ride a bike. Considering how like I'm into like sports and athletics, I feel like you wouldn't really anticipate that. No one's ever taught me. I've never really tried. I'm sure I could learn. I'd like to think I could ride a bike if I learned how to, but I've never owned one. No one's ever taught me. And I feel like when I tell people that, they're kind of like, what the heck? Because like I go to spin class like almost every single day, but like that's stationary.
It's like halfway there.
It's like halfway there. So like that's like it's stationary. So I feel like if you were to take that part out, it might not be as successful. Like the whole like
balance,
like drilled into the ground part. But yeah, so I don't know how to ride a bike. I'd like to hope that I will learn someday. I like to think that like I'd be able to, but no one's ever taught me how to ride a bike. I've never owned one. I also feel like a lot of the time I can come across as like really like energetic and bubbly and happy, but like that's not necessarily what's always going on the inside. I feel like I'm a pretty anxious person, and a lot of the times like I'm constantly like questioning myself, like thinking like, oh, does this person think like I'm annoying or whatnot? I'm kind of, I would say I'm a pretty self-doubtful person, which is something I'm trying to work on. I feel like it's really important to be confident in yourself, and it kind of like reflects in the way that like you come across to others. And I'm really trying to work on that. And a big part of that is, you know, like expanding into like things that I'm like, you know, like going out of your comfort zone and like, you know, pushing yourself in those kind of ways, which is something that I've been trying to like better with throughout my college career. But I know like public speaking and like talking to people I've never met before was always kind of like a struggle for me. So I feel like I said, like joining like Q30 and like all that kind of stuff, and joining just leadership positions in general, where you kind of have to have a voice for yourself and lead others, I guess, like for lack of better terms. You really kind of have to be like outspoken in a sense and kind of know what you're doing and confident enough to direct others. So I feel like that's something people wouldn't always expect. I wasn't always like this. But I feel like I've grown a lot throughout my college career. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, human beings, we're all three-dimensional.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't always kind of act like ourselves or act like how people think of ourselves. And that's important. We're not one-dimensional side characters.
Yeah.
We're all the main characters.
Yeah. No, and I know I struggle with that sometimes, because I can be a little bit of a perfectionist, and like I set myself to like kind of high standards, I guess you could say. And like you said, we're all human beings. Like perfection isn't like achievable. But like that can still be a hard concept to grasp sometimes. And I feel like that's something that like I struggle with. But I have my outlets, you know, like working out, like I said, like always like calms my mind and like kind of like gives me a moment to be by myself and kind of just think about things and like, you know, like reconnect with nature, I guess you could say. But yeah, no, I feel like that's something that people wouldn't really expect, is that like a lot of the times like I doubt myself and like, you know, I'm not always as confident as I might come across.
Yeah. So like exercising, running, love, doubting yourself. Hey,
yes.
So I like to ask you, what's one thing you love and one thing you strongly dislike?
I would say one thing I love. I am a huge, sorry, I'm like swaying back and forth.
No, don't worry. I'm doing it too.
But I have a hard time sitting still. But one thing I love, I would say I'm a huge animal person. I love animals. I'm not like a crazy cat lady or anything, but I'm a huge animal person. I know, like, this probably would have been good to say for something people don't know about me. I was a massive horse girl when I was younger, which I feel like is something you wouldn't expect. But from the span of like, I don't know, when I was 7 to like when I was like 12, there was a pony coming to every single birthday party. My parents had a horse come to our backyard and do like pony rides.
Wow.
Which is, no, it's very I love my parents, best people ever. But looking back at like photos, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, what was going on? Like, why were they feeding into this? But I love all my horse girls. Like, I completely get it. I was one myself. But I was always really big into animals, and I feel like that kind of just goes off of that. I have 2 dogs at home. I have 2 golden retrievers, Bo and Timber. They're my favorite things ever. I don't know. I just love animals. Like, just big animal person. Like, I feel like there's not really any animal that like every time I see like a dog or something walk by, like I want to pet it, a cat, like literally anything, even like reptiles, love them. But yeah, no, that's one thing I love. One thing I dislike, I'm trying to think. I would say I dislike people that are really bad at communication, which I know is like kind of like ironic, because like, or not ironic, but like, yeah, I'm a communications major. Like, I like to think that like I appreciate good communication, but I would say like more specifically, like I just don't like people that are hard to reach, or like bad texters, because like that really gets on my nerves, especially if there's like something important and like you're being like, I get it, everyone has like busy lives and everyone has their own stuff going on, but especially like, you know, like working in like orgs and whatnot, where like everyone's like kind of working on like towards something, or like for a greater purpose, like hard communication just like makes things so much more difficult. And I feel like that is something that just really gets on my nerves. Or like if we're actively like talking about something, then automatically like you just like are not answering. Like, I feel like that just gets on my nerves. And like I said, like I understand everyone has busy lives, like me myself included. Like, I'm not always on my phone, but like, you know, like it's just something that like can make things more difficult.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you're a fan.
Right? Or like it's like, oh my God, like am I texting them too much? Like, I don't want them to think I'm annoying. Or like a lot of the times, like I'll start my text with, so sorry to double text you, if like I'm just like responding to my previous text. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's just a good skill to have, is just like good communication. Because I feel like I always try to respond to people as quickly as possible. So I feel like it's just something I appreciate like mutually. But,
yeah. And it's going down. It's going Timber.
Yes, it's going down. It's going Timber. Oh my gosh, I actually heard, I was in spin class today and they played Kesha Timber, and I thought of my dog. Yes. I always like associate it with my dog now, but yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of like dream that, so to speak. So I'd like to ask you, what are some of your hopes and dreams professionally or in general?
I would say professionally, ideally, I want to end up in like a corporate setting, I feel like. I know that's like a bit different from like journalism and whatnot, and like what I do now for Q30. But like I said, I'm going more the MBA route, just because I think I want to like diversify like my areas of expertise. And I'd like to work in a corporate setting. I feel like I'm a very routine oriented person. I'm not very good with like impulsive plans and like whatnot, or like things coming up on the fly, which I think is one of the reasons why I don't think I can go into journalism or like reporting in general, because the entire job is like on the fly. You can get called in like at an early morning like story you have to cover and whatnot. And I see people around me who are like really into that, like the anticipation of the career. And I feel like, I don't know, like I want to know when I can like go into the office, when I can leave the office, and like, you know, like when I won't be bothered. So I think like a more of like, not, it's like kind of boring, but like a 9-to-5 setting would be better for me. So I think I'd like to end up in a corporate environment. Ideally, like something along the lines of like marketing. I know like I haven't taken a whole lot of like actual marketing classes for the MBA yet, but I'm really interested to see how those go. But just through my involvements, like in my internships and like in CAIO, like I really like the creativity aspect of it. And like the whole way you get to kind of uphold a persona for something and represent something, and influence public perception, I think is really interesting. And I'd love to learn more about like the analytics and like whatnot goes into that. But I guess I'll learn those in my classes. And yeah, I just want to have a successful career and make good money.
Yeah.
I know that's a basic answer, but like, I don't like, yeah, that's it. I just want to be happy and I want to enjoy what I do.
Yeah. And so you enjoy the structure, and it makes me think back to when I had Julia on here. She kind of likes the opposite, where she likes the being called in for the stories whenever.
That is exactly who I was referencing when I said I'm surrounded by people that like I see that firsthand. And she just like loves the thrill and anticipation of news, which is, you know, such a big part of the profession. And I feel like that's just something that I would struggle with if I had to do for the rest of my life, because like I said, like I'm very routine oriented. I know like I'm one of those people that like I wake up like at like 6:30 a.m. every day. Like I go to my gym, like I do my homework at like before like my classes in the morning, and then like I have like downtime at this time, and like every single day pretty much. Like I know it's like not copy paste, but like I like to map out every single day. I know like Google Calendar is my best friend. So I'm very much so just like I like planning and like knowing things. And I feel like I would just like not be so happy in a career where like everything's kind of on the fly.
Yeah.
But you have to love it to go into it.
Exactly.
And I don't know if that's for me. But I do see Julia, and I see how like she loves the thrill. And that kind of just like kind of showed me that like, oh, maybe this isn't exactly the route that I'm meant to do long term. But I think it's amazing that she loves it.
Yeah.
But I think that's like one of the differences between us, because I feel like we're such similar people too at the same time. But yeah.
Yeah, hers is like a roller coaster, yours is like a car ride.
Yes, a car ride.
If that makes sense.
No, completely. No, I understand that. No, she's very into news. I feel like I'm more of like, we're very similar people, but I feel like our differences are really like vast. And like she's really into like the impulsivity and kind of like the anticipation that like the news environment brings. And I like, if I were to get put in a situation like that where like I had to cover she loves breaking news. Oh my goodness. I know I was in the parking garage the other day, and like the toll like broke or something, and I was like just texting that in my sweet group chat. I was like, guys, I'm gonna miss spin class. Not to keep bringing up, I do other things. But I was like, guys, the toll's broken. I think I'm gonna miss spin class. Like, this is ridiculous. And then she was like texting me. She's like, can you take a photo? Like, I need to tweet about this. And I was like, oh my God. And like, I don't know, like, I feel like I just like I like living in the moment, and not to say that you can't do that when you're in news, but like I feel like I'm just like routine. Like now I have to just like every single time something happens, like automatically my mind goes to like, oh, we have to like tell people about this, or like we have to like make a story on this. And yeah, I don't know if I like that so much, but I know she's so into it and whatnot. So that's why I think I want to go like more the marketing route, or HR, or anything kind of like, you know, creative in terms of business, or like even like my internship this summer that I have lined up. I'm working at a financial firm in Hartford. It's called Talcott Financial. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. I've never heard of it until I applied. But I'll be doing like internal communications and external communications for them. So like more like press releases. I know like during my interview, the woman told me that like I'd be talking to employees and like writing stories about them, or like for like the company website, like achievements, I'd be like updating the company bulletin, which is kind of similar to what I do now, you know, like interviewing people and whatnot. So I think it'll be good for me, but I think like I'm excited to get exposure to the corporate environment like that, and kind of get like a side of the corporate communications, because I feel like that's more the route I want to go. Interesting.
And you bring up the toll story. It's like you're Batman. It's like you see the bat signal, and it's like, oh, I have to jump in it.
Oh no, Julia, if anyone, Julia's Batman. If anyone, Julia's Batman. She's always on like the news that's going on. I feel like that's also something really interesting about being involved in news on campus, is I'm aware of a lot more things that I wouldn't be aware about if I wasn't like, you know, on the backbone of it. Which I think is really important to like, you know, what's going on. And it's kind of like shown me that like, oh, like I should really start paying attention to the news more, because like there's so much happening going, like not even locally, just like around the nation and around the world, that like is important to keep up to date on. And it's also just like, you know, good to know what you're talking about when you're talking with people, and like just staying educated on things that are going on. But like, so I'm very thankful, and I think it's very valuable, the things I've learned from like being involved in news and whatnot. But I don't know if I want to end up in that long term.
Yeah, there's advantages to being dialed in.
Yes, there is advantages. But I also like the separation of just like sometimes like not knowing what's going on is always, or just like, you know, not always being in the know is kind of like gives you peace of mind. So yeah.
What's it? Ignorance is bliss.
Oh my gosh, yes. Ignorance is definitely bliss sometimes. Not always, but definitely sometimes.
Yeah, so some philosophical concepts, but where philosophy sometimes explored is movies. So how about I ask you, what are some of your favorite movies?
I'm honestly not a huge movie buff, but I would say these are two really different like spectrum movies wise, but I would say like I love Mean Girls. Mean Girls is one of my favorite movies. I know it's kind of like not a classic, but it's a little bit of an older one. But I love Mean Girls. I love comedy movies. And I love horror movies, which I feel like is really interesting. I know, like I mentioned, like I have a really hard time. Like one of the reasons I'm not like the last movie I saw in a theater was Top Gun, and that was in 2022. Oh, wow. So like I'm not a huge like avid movie theater goer. I have a Netflix account, but I usually don't like watch movies or TV shows all that much just because I have a hard time sitting still and like, you know, like committing to like episodes or like a series or a movie. But I found that like horror movies, I can actually sit and watch an entire movie. I love the Conjuring line of like horror movies. I've watched every single one, and honestly some of them multiple times, because I just feel like horror movies, like the anticipation kind of keeps you on your toes, and like I still hide behind something every time I think there's going to be a jump scare, but it keeps me like entertained. Like I love it, which I think is kind of random because you like wouldn't really expect me to be into horror movies, but I don't know, like it keeps me like it keeps me entertained.
That's where you get your thrill.
Yeah, that's where I get my thrill. That's where I get my thrill. Julia gets her thrill in the news. I get my thrill in the Conjuring.
I was about to make that comparison.
Yes, I get Annabelle. She gets the tolls breaking.
Yeah. The Barcello signal shines, and you get horror movies. Because I've had other like horror movies fans, and sometimes they say it's because like they could get the thrill, but they're still safe because there's the barrier of the screen.
No, see, the thing is like with horror movies, I can handle like the supernatural stuff. I think that's why I like... I say this as if I've seen a whole lot of horror movies. I really just like, I watched Annabelle and I liked it, so I just watched the rest of the Conjuring ones. And most of the ones that are like on Netflix for that matter. But I don't really like anything gory. I don't know. I just like don't like seeing that. It's just not my vibe. Yeah. But like I said, like horror movies just in general are typically the only ones that I can like sit through and where not. Or if like, I don't know, it's not too often where I'll be like, I'll sit down with someone and be like, oh, let's watch a movie. But if we do, I'll typically be like, oh, can it be like a scary movie? Because I don't know. Like, I feel like it just otherwise, like I just feel like I get bored. I know like that's probably not the typical response you get on your... No,
I mean...
But it's like, it's kind of fake communications major of me to not be into movies, but...
I don't think you're like the different side of communication.
A little bit, yeah. I do like, in terms of like, I guess this is kind of different than your question. In terms of like TV shows and whatnot, I know I was really into, oh my god, I'm blanking. Oh my god, what it's called. The one that was on Netflix. It was like the crime one. They took it off. Do you remember what it was called?
There's a lot of crime ones.
No. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of it. It had like the blonde. It was one of the crime ones on Netflix. Well, I guess that kind of goes hand in hand with the horror movies. I really like just like investigative things. Not to get like journalistic, but I think that's really interesting.
Oh, was it Tiger King?
No. Oh my gosh. It was like it was a massive series. They had like 20 seasons.
Unsolved Mysteries or something like that.
Oh my gosh, what was it called? It's gonna like hit me after this. I'm gonna like, it had like one of the guys, one of them was like JJ or something like that, or like Agent something. I don't know. I'll think of it. But
Criminal Minds? No.
Yes, Criminal Minds. That was it.
Minds? Okay.
Like one of the most widely known ones, and I forgot the name of it. Criminal Minds. Yes, I love Criminal Minds. I think it kind of goes along with the horror movies. I also am like really into, oh my god, you know what I got into during COVID? The Walking Dead. My dad got me into that one because he'd always watch it like in the living room and like fall asleep like while he was watching it, which is like not the most relaxing thing ever, I feel like, but you know, dad, sit on the couch and falls asleep.
Dad moment.
Yes, and then like I remember like it was just like playing and he was sleeping on the couch, so I like sat and like watched it and I was like, this is kind of interesting, which is kind of ironic because I said I don't like any of the gore or whatnot, but like I don't know, I think it's just like the aspect of thrill that keeps me entertained, but like even then, like I'm really sporadic with it. Like I have a hard time committing to like TV shows and whatnot. But yeah, and you like The Conjuring, and we conjured up a really awesome episode of the Zicast. And so I'd like to thank you so much for coming on. I want to ask if you have any like motivational words or any plugs you want to give, or just anything you want to leave the audience with before we wrap things up here. I would say honestly, just like go out of your comfort zone and just do things you're uncomfortable with, because especially like as a college student, like you're here to like mess up, I guess, for lack of better terms. Like you have so many opportunities. I know like I catch myself sometimes like thinking like, oh, like this is the end all be all, or like I can't make a mistake, like it's, you know, like it's the end of the world. But I feel like right now is like the time to like test things. If you're unsure if you're gonna like something or not, like just do it. Like the worst that's gonna happen is you just figure out it's not for you. And I don't know, like no one's gonna like make fun of you for trying something new. So I feel like just going out of your comfort zone, because you never know what you're gonna like and what you're not gonna like, or like you'll find a new passion or like meet new people. Even I know like through a lot of my involvements, I've met a lot of people that like I probably wouldn't have met otherwise. So I think that's really important. But yeah.
And if people do make fun of you, people say stuff anyways.
Oh my gosh, 100%. No, I've also learned that is like if you take upon a leadership position, you have to have thick skin.
Yeah.
Like, which is something I struggled with at first. And like the first time I kind of heard something through the grapevine, no one's ever like, you know, like dissed me to my face, but like, it just, it goes hand in hand. Like if you want to like, you know, like take upon a big role, like you have to just be prepared for backlash because someone's always going to have something to say. And you just kind of have to be confident with yourself and be like, okay, like I know what I'm doing. Like I'm proud of what I'm doing. That's all that matters. If you're not happy with it, that's fine. That's going to happen no matter what in life. So yeah.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yes, exactly.
Deep.
Exactly.
And overall, Cindy, thank you so much for coming on here, for your enthusiasm and for sharing
thank you for having me.
all these really incredible things.
Yeah.
Like hearing about like Make-A-Wish and then philanthropy and how that blends into the sorority and then Q30, how like you created this like really cool like
I feel like I've taken like a bunch of random involvements on campus and just found ways that like each kind of connect with each other. And I've grown from every single one in a way, and I feel like everything I do kind of like makes me who I am. I know like that's the same for everyone, but I feel like I've just found a lot of ways to connect, like a lot of random things. You know what I mean? So yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course, thank you. This was really fun, and I appreciate you and your time.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Of course. And as always, this is Ryan Zicast with the Zicast, where everyone has a story. Signing off. Thank you so much for watching.